That is indeed our top focus here on 5 Live. Now, this could have been you and me. Anybody who lives around in Delhi NCR or perhaps more so in Noida, Greater Noida, etc. We could be driving back home in the thick of the night, in the thick of the fog as well. But expecting to land in a ditch and losing your life, well, that's what happened with Yuvraj. Let's tell you in detail. It was a winter night in Greater Noida. There was dense fog, near zero visibility, an empty stretch of road in Sector 150. A 27-year-old software professional was driving back home. What he could not see was a deep construction pit filled with water dug right next to the road and no barricades, no reflectors, no warning lights. Nothing to suggest that the road ahead could turn fatal in seconds. His car then plunged straight in. He managed to get out of the vehicle. That part matters, remember, because this was not instant death. He called his family. He cried for help. He used his phone torch to signal anyone who might be passing by. For nearly 90 minutes, he waited in that water, clinging on to dear life. But help did not come in time. When rescue teams finally pulled him out, it was too late. The post-mortem later would confirm drowning, followed by a cardiac arrest. His father said this.
आने के बाद भी वो लोग मतलब मीनिंगफुल नहीं थे, उनके पास लिमिटेड रिसोर्सेज था और केवल रस्सी से ही वो लोग फेंक रहे थे और वहां रस्सी जा नहीं पा रही थी। फिर उनको अल्टरनेट ऑप्शन एडॉप्ट करना चाहिए था कि बोट का लेते यूज करते या कोई स्विमर या डाइवर होता वो जाकर मेरे बेटे के पास पहुंच जाते तो उसकी जान बच सकती थी। 6 बजे उनका बोट जो है प्रिपेयर हुआ रिकवरी के लिए। 6 बजे मॉर्निंग।
क्या तर्क दे रहे थे, क्यों अंदर नहीं गए वो देखने के लिए युवराज को?
बोले कि इसमें बहुत गहरा है, जगह जगह सरिया है, वो उसमें हम नहीं जा सकते, वहां पर डैमेज हो सकता है।
All right, so you heard that man over there. What is he saying? That around midnight is when he got the call, and finally his body, Yuvraj's body, was pulled out at 4 in the morning. In fact, much later, 6 o'clock is when they made the boat at least, so the body came out much later. We're expecting that till about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, he was actually alive. But this is the peculiar story. It raises so many questions. Yuvraj could have been you and me returning from home, but the shocking part here is that it's not just a story of crumbling infrastructure, but the fact that none of the emergency services which did land there to help him were equipped to help. Not the police, not the fire department, not even the NDRF.
1 घंटा 45 मिनट तक लड़के ने खूब अपने बचाने की गुहार लगाई है कि भाई मुझे बचा लो, किसी भी तरीके से बचा लो। मौके पे पुलिस भी थी एंड SDRF भी थी और अग्नि विभाग वाले भी थे, फायर ब्रिगेड वाले भी थे। किसी ने उसकी मदद नहीं करी। बोल रहे थे ठंडा पानी है, हम नहीं जाएंगे अंदर, इसमें सरिया है, अंदर हम नहीं जाएंगे। ठीक है जी। इस मौत का जिम्मेदार सच्चाई बताए तो सरकारी महकमा है। ठीक है जी। जब मैं आया हूँ 1:45 पे यहाँ आया हूँ, मैंने आके देखा है तो SDRF वाले सिड्डी पे बैठ के बोल रहे थे कि इसमें ठंडा पानी है, सरिया, हम अंदर नहीं जाएंगे। जो लड़का मुझसे 10 मिनट पहले ही डूबा था, मैं बोला तुम बाहर आओ, मैं जाऊंगा अंदर। वो बाहर आए, मैंने अपने कपड़े उतारे, मैंने कमर पे अपने पर रस्सा बांधा और कम से कम 50 मीटर अंदर गया मैं और कम से कम 30 मिनट मैंने वो लड़का ढूंढा अंदर इस पानी में। रात 2:45 बजे 30 मिनट तक मैंने वो लड़का ढूंढा। ना तो मुझे गाड़ी मिली, नहीं मुझे लड़का मिला। फिर ढूंढने के बाद मैं आ गया और आपने उसके बाद 5:30 बजे मैं यहाँ से गया हूँ। 5:30 बजे तक ना ही तो लड़का निकला था, ना ही गाड़ी निकली थी।
So who was that man you heard called an eyewitness there? Well, he is a civilian. He's a delivery boy who actually did jump in and tried to help. It was too late perhaps by then, but he jumped in where others and emergency services who are trained to handle these situations simply did not. So who allowed this to happen really? This was not an accident. It was a negligence basically playing out in real time. The agency responsible here, well, let's call them out. It's the Noida Authority. From 25 to 26, it has cleared the budget of 8,732 crore just in this Noida city. Last year alone, 2,229 crore was allocated for maintenance and 2,400 crore for development, besides hundreds of crores for land acquisition, rural development, office expenses, all of that. And yet, public roads had an open water-filled pit with no barricades, no lights, no warnings at all. The authority has also admitted it failed to spend a large amount of money last year from its budget as per norms, carrying it forward into the next year. They did not spend the money only. They had the kitty, did not spend it, which makes the question pretty unavoidable with thousands of crores in books. Why was basic safety missing? Who approved the site without safeguards? Who ignored resident warnings? And why did rescue fail when a man was alive and calling out for help? Cutting down a junior engineer is not accountability, which has happened in this case. They have suspended a junior engineer in this case. God knows how is that going to help or change anything. This is what happens when money moves faster than responsibility. Budgets make promises, roads expose failure. And in Noida, the cost of that failure is life of this young man. Joining us for more on this is somebody who is also very familiar with this story. RJ Guinea has been talking about it on her show all day long. Joins us now. Also with me, Sudhir Krishna, former Secretary, Urban Development, Government of India, joining us as well. Sudhir, I just want to start by asking you, there are lots of questions here. The fact that that entire wall preventing fall from the pit had been broken just a couple of weeks ago, because the residents there say that there was a bus which managed to ramp in, and that is why the outlet was open. That bridge was open, which is why his car went in. They're suspecting that's how it has happened. Nobody really knows because, of course, we don't have CCTV cameras to, look at things at all. Then there is the question of the father actually reaching there in 40 minutes, calling everybody possible, but nobody being equipped. So I don't even know where to begin when it comes to fixing accountability in this case.
Well, I think, Sonalji, first, thank you very much for inviting me, because it's a very important situation for the whole country. And I think we are not learning lessons, but at least today we should decide to learn the lesson. The first thing about accountability you mentioned, without doubt, accountability will lie on the Chief Executive Officer of the Noida. There is no point in suspending the junior engineer and so on, straight away. And straight away, the very first thing is, when something of this kind happens, it shows, because this is the only one spot. There may be many other spots in Noida.
Waiting for tragedies to happen.
Kind of danger lying there. And you see, there is no dearth of resources. You have yourself said that Noida Authority, a lot of funds they are not spending. And actually speaking, putting the stickers, putting the reflecting tape, it will cost few thousand rupees only if they want to put for the whole of the Noida. It may cost maybe 1 lakh or 2 lakh of rupees for the whole of Noida. It's because sticker tapes, reflecting tapes are there. So money is not the issue. The issue is that we are not concerned apparently, and by losing interest about the citizen in general. The glitter of getting new projects, constructing new things, sanctioning new things, laying foundation stones, going to media with Twitter and Facebook messages is so much that the fundamental human value is being lost. So I would recommend straight away that the Noida Authority Chief Executive Officer should be placed under suspension. Number one. And number two, all cities in the country, because the problem is rural area no less. And we don't discuss much about rural areas. They are also suffering a lot like this situation. But let us talk about cities for the while. That all cities should be asked, the Chief Executive Officer, municipal commissioners or development authority, whoever is the head, should be asked to give a certificate that all reflectors are in position. All, the danger points have been identified, because there are manuals. The Indian Road Congress has got code manuals on one hand for signages, on other hand for the safety audit of roads.
I get that. There is the entire issue of roads, and you're absolutely right, Mr. Krishna, that this is just one of the many that have perhaps been, put under question because of this. But let me bring in Guinea on this one. Guinea, what's really shocking me about this entire incident is perhaps not the apathy or perhaps the lack of work done by Noida Authority, which is just sitting on a pile of cash and not doing anything, but on the absolute unpreparedness of even, situations like SDRF. even the fire department, even the police. They had 5 to 6 hours to rescue him and they could not.
They said in the morning, I spoke to this guy, Muninder, who was the only brave person. And he said that there were almost 70 people out there from various authorities, which included the fire department, the police, the national disaster authorities. And none of them had even basic lights that could shear through the fog. I cannot make sense of this at all. They could not see where that boy was. They could just see his camera light flashing a little bit. They could hear his voice. They did not have basic light. So first that. Second, how are teams which are equipped for this telling us that this is a pit which has Saria and therefore we are not willing to risk our life? A common man saying that, I get it, but teams that are supposed to do this cannot say this. Again, I was talking to Muninder in the morning and he said that out of the police that was there, a majority of them didn't know how to swim. So then how were they going to help? They would not be able to help. I mean, it raises questions at so many levels. It's just not funny. But the saddest point is there's this boy who's drowning. There's his father.
Right, we'll just go to Guinea in just a minute. But Mr. Krishna, you heard that, right? The authority is just not being prepared to help. I mean, it's just appalling. If I am in an emergency situation, A, I get caught up because the authorities were not doing their job. That's why I'm in that pit. B, once I'm there, my family manages to find me. They manage to call everybody possible, from police to fire department to even the, the disaster management team, and none of them know what to do. That's just crazy.
Absolutely. So therefore, the lesson is, you see, the thing is, as I was telling earlier, that this is happening in one place. The person who lost his life, at least that cannot come back, but at least country should benefit, get some benefit, other lives should be saved. So therefore, one certificate should be taken from all municipal commissioners that their roads are safe, number one. Number two, here the SDRF, they should hang their head in shame. Because if they cannot save one person with 50 people around, 50 of their staff around, and they do not have the torch which can see through the fog, if they do not have the swimmers, if they do not have the wherewithal, then what is the disaster relief force for? So I think a lot of drama is going on in the name of all these things. Straight away, the head of the SDRF should also be taken to task. And because then only people will wake. Because if you suspend junior engineer or a police constable and so on, nothing will happen, because that man is he is not responsible for many things. So therefore, I think it is high time that exemplary action is taken, which will alert the system. Otherwise,
so Mr. Krishna is clearly not mincing his words. He's saying all those responsible, starting with the CEO of Noida Authority to SDRF to police and to fire department, they must all answer what happened. Like we were talking about, eyewitnesses there have said there were some 70 to 80 people there on the spot, and it took one delivery boy to jump and say that, no, it doesn't matter, I'll go and save the guy. And by the time, it was too late. Guinea?
That is true. That is true. That's the delivery boy is the real hero out here, definitely. But it's such a sad state of affairs. I also want to know, if this was a politician, would they have had the same amount of reluctance to jump in? Because it's a common man, and a common man's life does not matter in India. It does not. Do you know this pit is the basement of a mall, which was dug for so many years? Today, I had people from Noida, Sector 150, saying we've been staying in that sector. We didn't know that this was the basement of a mall. We thought it was a pond where ducks come. This is a pond which has Saria, which has all of those things lying under it. Nobody's checked. Sector 150 in Noida is one of the poshest sectors, where the biggest builders are right now selling flats at crores of rupees. Why is it that Noida Authority is not looking at these basics? How could a pit be uncovered for such a long time? This is a case where a truck fell in the same pit 4 days ago. And yet, and for that father, so we discuss so many news items, we do so many things. For that father to know that he stood there for 5 hours hearing his son scream,
oh gosh,
save me, with every single authority that he could have called, and yet not be able to save his son. I mean, the authorities need to answer to this man. Why? It's a whole life lost for nothing. It's the most saddest case that I've seen. And people are now going and protesting on site, etc. But the builders there are not taking questions. They're not answering. So many
But
projects
Ginny,
are on
why
in
the
Noida.
builders? Builders will always have commercial interests in mind, right?
No,
Noida Authority has
this was
to.
an
Noida
absolutely,
Authority
absolutely.
has to answer why are they allowing it to happen. So apparently the builder, we did some digging out and we figured out that the builder had to pay some money. There were some sanctions which are pending, which is why construction was stopped on that site, right? Now, even if
Exactly,
you
which is why
stop
Pani had
construction,
come
you
in.
got to cover it. You got to figure out
That's
next
just
step. It's
my
been lying like
point.
that. Yeah.
That's just my point. How can you leave a pit in the middle of the city? This is not a village. This is not some sort of a. This is Sector 150 Noida, which is posh. How can you have an open drain where this man is saying 50 meter tak firemen ki seedi nahi gayi? Do you realize the enormity of the largeness of that pit? And we've just. This is in the middle of the city. How is this being allowed? I don't know who all should lose their jobs. I don't know how many people will lose their jobs. I don't know if 3 days later all of us will remember this story. But the problem is that what you said at the beginning of the show is true. We all have to realize it could be any of us. And
Yeah.
any of us, Manju, this is just a man doing his job and coming back home.
Yeah. No, I get it. It
And
was a
you,
foggy night. I get it. I get it that it was,
no, not with
we
the
don't know.
national
Yeah.
disaster team
Yeah.
standing there. It's foggy for
Yeah.
you and me. We can't help. They can't turn around and say it was foggy, so our lights didn't work, our systems didn't work, we didn't have the requisite infrastructure. If they hadn't reached there, I would still give them some credit. To stand there
Yeah.
on the side and watch all of this happen, the fire, the disaster management, the police, come on.
Yeah, I don't know why, what is the point of paying taxes? I don't understand how, where is all that taxpayers' money going? Where is the
There is no
accountability? A
accountability in the
life's
system.
earning has gone into, building a house, building a home, owning a house, owning a flat in Noida, in, Sector 150, barely kilometers away from the national capital, barely kilometers away from where we are standing, by the way, which is why I said it could be
Absolutely.
any of us. It could be any of us traveling all the way down, and then not just to land there, to have nobody come out and help. Just absolute disaster. Noida Authority, you're right, the CEO has a lot of answering to do, along with what the fire department, police and SDRF did as well. I have to thank you both for the moment for joining us, and we'll stay tuned on the story. All right, cutting across to some breaking news coming in. Vijay's second round of grilling has ended. CBI has questioned Vijay for over 6 hours in the Karur Stampede case now. He waved at his fans before leaving the CBI headquarters. He also dismissed rumors against Vijay. TVK actually did that, and also Vijay came just for the probe, is what the party is saying. No summon has been issued again. We are cooperating in the investigation and we want justice to come to the people. All right, remember, Vijay is in town, is in the national capital today to answer all those questions by the CBI at the CBI headquarters. That's his car leaving the CBI headquarters now. It started at early in the morning. Some 6 hours have gone into that questioning. And now this is, like we said, round 2 of that. Munish Pandey joins us for more on this. Munish, what can you tell us more about what happened inside?
Well, Sonal, this was the second day when actor turned politician, TVK chief Vijay was questioned by the Central Bureau of Investigation in connection with the Karur Stampede case. Today's questioning was for almost 6 hours, and what we have been given to understand is that he was confronted with some documentary evidence, which was not only the video footage of that particular event where he was seen throwing water bottle when the crowd was fainting, but also there were some documentary evidence and statements which were earlier recorded by the Central Bureau of Investigation. Sonal, as far as CBI's line of questioning is concerned, it was mostly focused on why there was a delay of almost 7 hours by TVK chief Vijay on that day, because of which the crowd swelled, from 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. There was a crowd of almost 25 to 30,000. Also, he was questioned on the lines that there was violation from the organizers, which is the TVK party leaders. There was violation by them. So on these lines, the statements have been recorded. We have been given to understand is that so far, No more summons have been sent by the CBI. He has not been asked to appear before the CBI for questioning once again. It appears to, it appears to us that his questioning by the CBI in connection with this case is over. Apart from Vijay, there are at least 5 TVK functionaries who have been earlier questioned by the Central Bureau of Investigation. There are at least 6 officers from Tamil Nadu Police who have been questioned by the CBI, and there are 2 individuals, the key individuals who might be called again by the CBI for questioning in this case, and later on the CBI will file a charge sheet that who exactly was responsible, for Karur Stampede. But as far as Vijay is concerned, he has alleged that he has not violated any of the agreement or any law. It was Tamil Nadu Police's responsibility, and they failed to discharge their duty. That is why this stampede happened. Sonal.
All right, Manish, we'll leave it there for the moment. Clearly not the last we've heard on the story. We'll come back to you as and when the story progresses. For the moment, let's move on to the other big news that we are tracking that happened. But stay on with us, Nikhil. We've got more sports stories lined up and we want to discuss that with you. On Sunday evening, the Indian cricket team lost the third and the final ODI against New Zealand, and with it, the series as well. The team is back in its Gambhir situation, and it's not a problem limited to tests anymore. The ODI series loss has now triggered a massive reaction from cricket fans on social media, and at the center of the storm sits the man, the very Gambhir man, Gautam Gambhir. Gautam Gambhir's tenure as head coach of the Indian team has been a turbulent one, to say the least. Under him, India has lost 3 ODI series, 2 away from home against Sri Lanka and Australia, and now with the loss against New Zealand as well, we've been defeated in ODIs on home soil for the first time in 3 years. With the triumph in the Champions Trophy in 2025, there is less pressure on Gambhir when it comes to the white ball cricket. But now, with questions surfacing again after the disappointing loss against New Zealand and the 2027 ODI World Cup not too far away, will the Gambhir situation as India's head coach across formats really find a solution? Nikhil Naz, we've been debating this time and again. Is it a Gambhir situation, according to you, or is it time to acknowledge that the big wigs of the game have exited, the red ball cricket, and that's why we are here? It might not be because of Gautam Gambhir.
I tell you what, Sonal, just to answer your first question, it definitely is a Gambhir situation. Let me put that into perspective. For a lot of people, it might just be one ODI match, a bilateral match that you've lost. But I'll give you 3 pointers that will actually tell you how serious a situation Indian cricket find themselves in. This, in fact, is the very first time India lost an ODI match in Indore's Holkar Stadium. They'd never lost a single match, let alone a series. This was for the very first time that New Zealand have won a bilateral series in India, a bilateral ODI series. New Zealand have been coming to India since 1988. In 2026 is the first time they won a bilateral ODI series in India. Can you imagine what a proud record India has? That, unfortunately, has come to an end yesterday after that game. And just to add on to that, in the last 1 decade, India have only lost a bilateral ODI series at home to a country called Australia. Australia, we know, are quite a force to reckon with in international cricket. So Australia has been the only team that had beaten India in the last 1 decade in a bilateral ODI series at home. The only other team now that is not called Australia that's done it, that's New Zealand. So put all those things together and you realize the gravity of the situation. Now, to what the problem is with Indian cricket, there could be multiple issues. You talk about the coaching, there could be selections that could be a problem, there could be forms of certain players that could be a problem. And without getting into the nitty-gritties, the biggest problem is, and I want to ask this to the Board of Control for Cricket in India, BCCI, what are they doing? You just flashed a lot of stats there on your screen, because the last time we were talking, Sonal, that was of India losing a test match series. Now you've lost an ODI series. You've lost 2 ODI bilateral series in the last 3 you've played. My question is, since that test match loss that we spoke about, there's not been a single meeting of the BCCI to address what the problem is. I'm saying that maybe it'll take time to reach to the bottom of the issue and find what the problem is. There's not been a single meeting. You've lost these 2 ODI series, bilateral ODI series, not as important as the test series yet. As I said, this has been unprecedented yet. There has been no word from the BCCI that they want to address an issue. I'll give you a parallel. England lost to Australia in the Ashes very recently. On the day they lost that final test match, English Cricket Board sent out a statement, this is a problem, we are going to speak to the coach, we're going to speak to the stakeholders, we're going to speak to the captain. We need to find and get to the bottom of the issue. From the BCCI, we've not heard anything. I do see a lot of BCCI officials in every game. You're talking about the game last evening, I saw all the BCCI officials sitting in the VIP box, enjoying that game of cricket. But there has been no acknowledgement as to there is an issue, which is the problem.
Do they not acknowledge the problem, or do they not have solutions?
See, I'm not asking them to come up with solutions. They are administrators at the end of the day. But their point is to get the stakeholders together and ask the question that you and I are asking. You and I have never played Test cricket, right? But if there is an issue, you ask me that particular question, I will ask the experts, why is it that we lost this ODI series? Why is such a such player who's doing very well in domestic cricket not part of your team? Why is it that you've had such rotations and this player was rested at a certain point and this not played? Why is it that in a given game you decided to win the toss and do these? These are simple questions that the administrators need to ask and then get to the bottom of the issue. Who do you need to call? You need to call the selectors, you need to call the coach, you need to call the captain, and then after a lot of conversation get down to what the crux of the matter is. I'll give an example. You had a situation in last year, you lost in Australia. There was a review meeting. You came out with these strict sort of rules for players. So players weren't allowed to take their families for a certain amount of days on tours. Players like Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma were asked you have to play domestic cricket. Certain players were dropped. Why? Because there seemed to be leaking news from inside the team, because you thought that was detrimental to the team. 12 months down the line, your results have even gotten worse, but you haven't addressed the issue. So when it comes to certain players that you want to target, you're quick to pounce upon them and then take these steps. When it is larger questions that need to be asked from the management or the selection, I'm afraid the BCCI is absent there. And I think that is the big issue.
BCCI not speaking here, but another situation where ICC is speaking a lot, which is the situation of the ultimatum that Bangladesh has got from the ICC board as well, right? Talk to us a little bit about that. Why is that happening?
That, I'm afraid, is a very serious situation that international cricket finds itself in. Just to break it down to our viewers, you've had situations in the past where countries have refused to play in a World Cup in a particular host nation. But the worst that you've had is that they don't play that one particular game, they forfeit the points. It's never had a major repercussion or a major dent to the tournament per se, because a lot of those teams like Australia, like West Indies, like England, who have opted out to certain games in either Sri Lanka or Zimbabwe in the past, they've gone on to play the tournament, maybe even reach semi-finals and finals and so on and so forth. This is for the very first time, there is a serious threat of a team being completely removed from the tournament. Where we are at the moment, Bangladesh is saying nothing doing, we're not coming to India and playing. ICC is saying nothing doing, you let us know by Wednesday. If you can't find a solution, we are not ready to swap your groups, we are not ready to put you in a neutral venue. We are going to get the next ranked team, which is Scotland, which, by the way, hasn't qualified for the T20 World Cup, hasn't been prepping. Most teams have been prepping for that tournament for a year, year and a half. The tournament starts in less than a month's time. Scotland would be told at the 11th hour, you're in, and Bangladesh, you're out. That, I'm afraid, could be a serious situation. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. One, to have a team being removed. And secondly, we're just hearing from Pakistan. It was reported widely in Pakistani media, because remember, India and Pakistan have been at loggerheads. Pakistan is using this opportunity, and their government has let this information out in their media that if Bangladesh is removed, we will also review our situation of participating in the tournament. Yes,
this is just snowballing. This is not the last we've heard, and this is just going out of hand. So let's see how this goes, Nikhil. Just leaving it there for positive time over there. Now, dirty water is once again turning deadly in Madhya Pradesh. Weeks after contaminated water claimed 15 lives in Indore, a fresh outbreak that has triggered an alarm. The Guillain-Barre Syndrome, GBS as it's called, is surfaced in the areas. They're killing at least 2 people, 2 children in fact. 13 new cases have been reported, prompting the WHO probe into yet another public health failure. Here's what happened.
Dirty water is wreaking havoc in Madhya Pradesh once again. Weeks after, filthy water killed 15 in Indore city. shattering all misconceptions around it being the cleanest city in India. Another outbreak has put Madhya Pradesh to shame. The deadly GBS, Guillain-Barre Syndrome, has raised its ugly head, this time in Mandsaur and Neemuch in the state. 2 children have died, raising a big scare. 13 new cases have been reported.
मैं तो पहले कुछ समझ नहीं पाया, पैर में दर्द हुआ, फिर हाथ में आया और फिर नाक और सांस पे कब्जा कर लिया उस चीज ने। ये जो भी था, नीमच जाके इस चीज का पता चला और उसके बाद में हम सीधे अहमदाबाद गए। 12 घंटे में उसका ट्रीटमेंट लागू भी हो गया, लेकिन 13 दिन उसका इलाज चला पर उसको बचा नहीं।
So what is GBS? This is a rare neurological disorder where the immune system attacks the nerves, causing muscle weakness, tingling, and sometimes paralysis. The infection linked to poor sanitation.
GBS is also referred to as Guillain-Barre Syndrome. The neurological word for this disease is acute inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. It's a fancy word, but what really happens in these patients is there's an acute, that means a sudden onset of the peripheral nerves, the nerves of your legs, your arms, demyelinating. So they start losing their myelin, so the nerves stop working. So the patient will usually present with paralysis. The paralysis starts off from the legs and spreads upwards. And once the disease involves the diaphragm and the respiratory muscle, the muscles which help us to breathe, the intercostal muscles, these patients will not be able to breathe on their own. So they will need ventilatory support. You will have to put them on a ventilator. GBS has been linked to a bacteria called Campylobacter jejuni. I want to emphasize here that GBS in neurology is treated as a neurological emergency. It can prove to be fatal. So whenever we have a patient who presents with GBS, what we usually do is we admit them to the neuro ICU. These patients will require very good intensive care. If their respiratory muscles are getting involved, you'll have to put them on a ventilator.
A clustering of GBS cases usually shows some sort of a trigger linked to sanitation, and that's the reason why this cluster is being studied deeply by a team of the World Health Organization and the Integrated Disease Surveillance Program. Now, they are going to give reasons for this outbreak, but it is indicated that it could perhaps be linked to dirty water yet again. This is another addition to Madhya Pradesh's Hall of Shame. Speaking volumes, a reflection of poor governance, poor focus on public health issues, and the inability of the administration to prevent deaths and infections from these absolutely preventable causes. In New Delhi, Sneha Mordani for India Today Television.